The grand hall of the Galactic Council was filled with strange lights, tall pillars, and voices that echoed like soft music. Leaders from many alien worlds sat in high seats made of crystal and stone. They wore robes, armor, feathers, or metal, suits each showing pride in their own culture. It was a serious place, where great decisions about the galaxy were made. But today, the mood was different. Someone had brought up Earth. An old, gray-skinned alien named Varkesh raised his long fingers and said with a grin, "The humans have requested to join the council." Again, his voice was slow, but filled with amusement. The room went silent for a moment. Then the laughter started. A tall, insect-like leader clicked its jaws in joy. "Humans, that small blue planet with noisy machines and no real fleets. They haven't even reached half the galaxy." Another said, its voice full of mockery. "They still use fuel and metal," said a third, pointing at a shared screen showing Earth's last official space probe. For over a minute, the room laughed. It was not just light laughter. It was deep, open, and mocking. Some even wiped tears from their strange eyes. Behind the council pillars, almost unnoticed, a single human stood watching. He wore a simple dark suit, no flag, no symbols. His face was calm, eyes quiet, lips sealed. His name was Ambassador Troy. He had been sent to watch, not speak unless Earth was mentioned. And now, Earth was not just mentioned. It was mocked. He did not interrupt the laughter. He recorded it. Troy stood still as one alien leader said, "Maybe we should give them a chair's mold plastic, maybe with wheels." Again, the laughter. Rose Varkesh finally raised a hand. "Let's be kind. Humans are ... trying, but they are not ready for this council. They are like children. Let them grow first." That was when Troy stepped forward. The hall quieted, not because they feared him, but because no one expected a human to speak. Not here, not now. Troy looked up at the rows of faces, claws, and eyes. His voice was soft, but firm. "You laugh at us," he said. "You think we are weak, slow, simple. Maybe you are right, or maybe you've only seen what we wanted you to see." The aliens blinked, whispered. Troy stepped forward again. "For many years, Earth has watched and listened. We didn't ask to join because we needed help. We asked to understand. We asked to be part of something bigger." Varkesh leaned forward. "And you were denied." Troy nodded. "Yes, 3 times. But we came back, not to beg, but to remind you, Earth is still here, and we are not the same as before." The council grew still. Some leaders looked confused. Some looked curious. A few seemed ... uncertain. Troy continued, "I came today only to watch, to see how the council treats others, and I have seen enough." Varkesh raised a brow. "What do you plan to do, human?" Troy gave a small smile. "Nothing, not yet. But you should prepare. Not for war, not for peace, but for truth." He turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one spoke. The laughter had faded like smoke in wind. Outside the hall, he stepped onto a small platform. A silent ship hovered above, shaped like a black stone, smooth and sharp. He entered without a word. Inside, a voice greeted him. "Ambassador Troy, did you hear what you needed?" "Yes," he answered. "Shall we send the signal?" He paused, then said, "Yes, let them see." Far above, beyond the moons, something moved in the dark. A shape, a shadow, silent and massive, larger than anything the council had ever recorded near Earth. It did not speak, it did not shine, but it waited, and the galaxy would soon know. ... Earth had been listening, and now, Earth would be seen. And this time, no one would laugh. The quiet of deep space was broken by a soft alarm. Inside a small council surveillance station, orbiting a distant moon, a young alien technician stared at the blinking red light. In front of him, his 4 eyes blinked in confusion. The alert was simple. Unidentified object detected. Direction: Earth. At first he thought it was a mistake. Earth had no such ships. Their traffic was slow, old, and always registered. But this signal was different. Strong, steady, and coming fast. He adjusted the sensors and zoomed in. A single, dark shape moved through the stars. It didn't match any known design. It had no flashing lights, no open signal, no call code. Just a massive, clean, silent form gliding through the dark like it owned the space around it. The technician leaned closer. This is not Earth's usual ship. Across the station, the senior officer frowned. Send it to Central Command. Now. Within minutes, the image of the strange ship was sent across the Council's network. On hundreds of planets, military advisors, engineers, and leaders stared at the silent footage. On one screen, a scientist whispered, "It's too large for a cargo ship, too quiet for a warship. What is it?" In the Council's high chamber, Varkesh watched the footage silently. He narrowed his eyes. "Why is this the first time we've seen this ship?" A nervous officer replied, "Because Earth never showed it, and we never looked closely." The silence in the chamber deepened. The image zoomed in. On the side of the ship, one word was barely visible through the shadows. HSS Silence. Someone whispered, "Silence. That's the ship's name." Varkesh tapped the table slowly. "No, that's a message." Far above Earth, inside the ship, Captain Roy stood on the bridge. He wasn't a loud man. He didn't wear medals or colorful suits. Just a plain uniform with a small silver symbol, a quiet mark of Earth's new Space Force. The crew worked around him, calm and focused. No one panicked. No one spoke unless needed. The ship had been built in silence, trained in silence, and now moved through the stars the same way. "Status?" Royce asked softly. "Council patrol detected," replied his officer. "They've sent a warning ping." Royce looked at the screen. A small alien ship hovered nearby, blinking its lights in a pattern that said, "Identify, turn back, explain." He nodded. "Maintain course." No reply. Outside, the patrol ship moved closer. Curious, maybe bold, maybe trying to act important in front of the rest of the galaxy. But the silence did nothing. It kept moving. And then, the patrol ship vanished from radar. There was no flash, no sound, no hit, just silence. In the council hall, the alert came seconds later. The patrol was gone. No signal, no answer. Only empty space where the ship had been. Was it destroyed? A voice asked, nervous. "No signs of explosion," replied a technician. "No wreckage, just nothing." Varkesh stood slowly. "So now they are showing us only what they want, just like their ambassador said." A small voice near the back of the chamber whispered, "Should we respond?" Varkesh shook his head. "No, not yet. Let them arrive. Let us see their face." Clearly, on board the Silence, Royce stood with his hands behind his back. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He watched the stars and spoke to his ship's AI. "Have we reached visual range?" "Yes, Captain," the AI answered, smooth and polite. "We are within Council surveillance lines. They are watching." He gave a slight nod. "Good." The ship rotated slowly, revealing its full size and strange shape to every Council camera, now focused on it. It had no weapons in sight, no shields visible. But its very presence was heavy, like it carried secrets no one had ever guessed Earth had. Across the galaxy, people stopped what they were doing to watch. Screens in busy markets, military bases, and learning centers showed the dark ship as it floated in silence. The humans had never sent something like this before, not in all the years of Earth's space contact. On a quiet moon, a young alien girl stared at the screen with wide eyes. "Is that really from Earth?" she asked her teacher. The older alien looked worried. "If it is, then everything we thought about them is wrong." Captain Royce stared at the Council's main shipyard ahead. Lights blinked in the distance. Hundreds of alien ships hovered, watching, waiting, unsure. Royce whispered, mostly to himself, "We tried to be peaceful. We tried to be part of something bigger." The ship's AI responded, but they only listened when we stopped speaking. He smiled faintly, "Then let the silence speak for us." And with that, the HSS Silence began its slow approach toward the Council's core system, weapons raised, no threat spoken, but louder than any fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Deep beneath the ocean, in a place where sunlight never touched, something old and massive rested in silence. It was not made of stone or nature, it was metal, smooth, and alive with quiet energy. For decades it had stayed hidden, sleeping under the waves, unknown, even to most of Earth's own people. Only a few knew of its presence. Fewer still understood its purpose. One of them was Dr. Elise Marlowe. She walked through the long silver hallway of Earth's secret facility, her footsteps echoing softly. Lights above her flickered to life as she passed, guiding her toward a chamber that few ever entered. A thick door slid open. Inside, the room was filled with holograms, blinking lights, and a large circular platform where a dark sphere floated in the air. This sphere was the mind of the HSS Silence. "Good morning, Doctor," the AI said, its voice calm and almost human. "Captain Royce has reached the outer ring of the Council's systems. The Silence is holding position." Dr. Marlowe nodded. "And the Council's reaction? They are watching, still trying to understand what they're seeing." She smiled. "Softly let them wonder." The truth was, Earth had started planning this many years ago, not out of fear, but out of careful thinking. When Earth first reached the stars, they saw how the galaxy operated. The powerful ruled, the weak begged, and the Council decided everything. Humanity stayed quiet. They didn't protest, they didn't shout, they listened. And while the galaxy watched Earth's slow public growth, they never saw the other side, the hidden shipyards beneath the ocean. The AI systems built in silence, the advanced research far away from satellites and scans. Earth had shown them only what it wanted them to see. In another hidden base, deep inside a mountain range, engineers worked around a different console. Maps of the galaxy glowed on the wall. A line of dots showed Earth's real fleet, not just the HSS Silence, but others too, waiting, watching. Silent. An older man leaned forward. "Time to show part of our hand?" he asked. His assistant hesitated. "Not yet, sir. Captain Royce's presence alone is creating enough confusion. The longer they try to understand the Silence, the more they doubt their own power." Above them, in orbit around Earth, a second ship, smaller, but just as advanced, drifted quietly behind the moon, shielded from every scan. Meanwhile, back on the HSS Silence, Captain Royce stood before a large screen. It showed a live feed from a Council observation satellite. He could see them watching. Dozens of their ships had moved into position, but none dared to come close. He turned to his crew. "Let them look. Let them wonder, but don't respond unless I say." A young officer asked, "What if they try to talk?" "Then we listen," Royce said simply. He didn't want fear. He didn't want power. But he knew what it meant to be ignored. Earth had asked for a seat at the table. 3 times, all denied. Not because Earth was dangerous, but because it was considered small, slow, and behind. Now, they weren't behind. And they weren't asking. In a quiet corner of the Council's archives, a curious alien researcher searched old data files. She had heard of Earth's early radio messages, their space launches, their peaceful greetings. But now, after seeing the Silence, she wondered what else had they hidden. She discovered old human texts, strange writings about patience, strategy, and silence. One phrase caught her attention: "Speak softly and carry a big stick." She didn't know what a stick was, but the message was clear. Earth had waited, Earth had learned, and now Earth had arrived. In the Council hall, Varkesh sat alone for a moment. The other members had gone into meetings, arguments, and panic, but he simply stared at the screen that showed the HSS Silence floating calmly in space. He remembered the laughter, the jokes, the easy dismissal of Earth, and now, a strange stillness had replaced it all. He whispered to himself, "What else have we missed?" Back on Earth, in the hidden ocean base, Dr. Marlowe placed her hand on the glass near the AI sphere. "We never wanted to scare them," she said quietly. The AI responded, "We only wanted them to see us." She nodded. "And now they will." Above the stars, the Silence held its position. No attack, no speech, just presence. A message was sent to the Council, one line, one sentence: "We came in peace. We were ignored. Now, we stand where you can see us." And with that, the galaxy began to understand. Earth had never been simple. It had only been silent. Inside the Council tower, the air felt heavier than usual. The once confident voices of alien leaders were now soft, unsure, and filled with quiet tension. Screens hovered around the chamber, each one showing the same thing: the human ship still floating calmly, silently, just beyond their main defense grid. No demands, no moves, just presence. Varkesh sat at the center of the circle-shaped hall, watching the silent ship on the screen. His fingers, long and silver-scaled, tapped the tables slowly, thoughtfully. Around him, Council members whispered in many languages. Some were afraid, others were curious. A few still held on to their pride, but even they spoke more carefully. "Now, they haven't made any threats," one said. "They haven't even asked to speak again," another added. Varkesh leaned forward. "They don't need to. That ship is their message. A short reptilian advisor frowned. We believed Earth had no such capability. How can a world that was using chemical rockets a generation ago now build something like that? No one had an answer. In a corner of the hall, two junior diplomats from a peaceful system whispered together. One of them had seen the inside of a human-built satellite before, old, simple, almost playful. But now, seeing the ship called Silence, she whispered, "I think they were hiding on purpose." The other one nodded. But why? Why stay quiet for so long? Varkish looked toward the far end of the chamber, where a large window showed the stars. "Because silence is not weakness," he said. "Sometimes it's just patience." At that moment, another alert blinked to life. A second human ship had appeared, not from the same path as the first, but from another direction entirely. It was smaller, but equally dark, equally unreadable. No one had detected its arrival. Panic returned to the hall. Two ships now. How did it pass our sensors? They were never meant to be seen, someone muttered. Back at Earth's ocean base, Dr. Marlowe watched the same alerts in her calm control room. She sipped her tea, not with pride, but with quiet thought. The second ship, HSS Whisper, had been launched just hours earlier. Like its sibling, it was cloaked, calm, and powerful. But more than that, it was a symbol. She turned to her assistant. "They're wondering how we did this." The assistant nodded. "Should we explain?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Let them understand the cost of ignoring what's right in front of them." In the Council's strategy chamber, military advisors debated endlessly. "We must respond," one said, voice firm. "We have fleets. Let us show them we are not afraid." "And what would that prove?" A wiser voice replied. "That we still think strength means shouting louder." The debate continued, but Varkesh said nothing. He only stared at the screen. The second ship had positioned itself in a way that revealed something clever. It wasn't just protecting itself. It was covering the first ship's side. Together, they formed a pattern. Not a military stance. A symbol, a circle, complete, balanced, watchful. Varkesh spoke quietly. "This isn't a show of power. It's a lesson in control." In a nearby chamber, the Council's junior researchers gathered data, comparing ship logs, gravity waves, energy signatures. They noticed something strange. Both human ships shared the same engine core signature, but also something else. A pulse, faint, steady, and ... musical. One of the younger scientists tilted her head and said, "It's almost like a heartbeat." Another replied, "Maybe it's their way of reminding us they're alive." Meanwhile, on the HSS Silence, Captain Roy stood by the main display as soft music played in the background, Earth's old symphonies, flowing through the ship like quiet rivers of sound. The bridge crew worked without panic. They had trained for this moment for years. Royce turned to his first officer. "Any messages from the Council?" "None, sir." "Any movements?" "They've positioned 4 of their defense ships closer, but still no direct action." Royce smiled faintly. "Then we wait." He didn't want fear. He didn't even want attention, but he wanted them to stop pretending that Earth was too small to matter. He knew they wouldn't forget this. On a peaceful moon orbiting a green world, children in a classroom watched the scene unfold. Their teacher, an old scholar, said, "This is history. You are watching it happen." One student raised his hand. "Are the humans trying to take over?" The teacher smiled gently. "No, they're simply reminding us that they belong here too." Back on the Council homeworld, as the sun set across the marble towers, Varkesh finally stood and spoke to his staff. "Prepare a message," he said. "No threats, no commands, just an invitation to speak with them." A young aide asked. "To listen," Varkesh corrected. "It's time we listened." And far above them, between stars and silence, 2 human ships floated quietly, watching a galaxy that was slowly learning. Sometimes, the quietest voices are the ones worth hearing. Asterisk in the quiet space between stars, where light moved slowly and sound had no place. The 2 human ships remained still. HSS Silence and HSS Whisper floated like shadows given shape, their dark metal blending into the galaxy around them. They made no sudden moves. They said no words, but their presence had changed everything. On the Council homeworld, the central communication tower received over 100 messages in one cycle. Some were warnings, others were questions, and many were simply confusion. Why are they here? What do they want? Are they watching us? Testing us? Inside the tower, Council Communication Officer Saley moved carefully between screens. her tail curling with nervous energy. She had worked here for 30 years. Never once had she seen such silence turn into so much noise. Her eyes paused on a message that had just arrived from a distant trade colony. Humans refused to show any weapons. They only sent a small sample of clean energy cores more advanced than anything we've seen. Sally tilted her head. The humans weren't threatening anyone, but they also weren't hiding anymore. Elsewhere in the council's halls, 3 senior military advisors met in private. They must be bluffing, said one. No planet can build ships that advance in such a short time. They didn't build them quickly, replied the second. They just never told us they were building. The third one, a silent observer for most of the meeting, finally spoke. We treated them like they were not part of the galaxy. They responded by becoming something we don't understand. Their words were interrupted by another alert. A third human ship had appeared, this time near the edge of a neutral system. It didn't enter any restricted zones. It didn't block trade. It simply arrived and waited. 3 ships. 3 positions. None aggressive. All perfectly placed. Meanwhile, aboard the HSS Silence, Captain Royce studied a star map on the main screen. Blue markers showed the Council's known fleet positions. Green markers were trade routes. And in between, 3 glowing white circles marked the positions of Earth's 3 ships. The crew said nothing. They understood. Royce walked slowly toward the central console. The ship's AI spoke first. The Council is observing all 3 vessels. The pattern has been noticed. Royce gave a quiet nod. Good, then we continue. Back on Earth, in the hidden mountain base, Dr. Elise Marlowe entered the command center with a thoughtful expression. Screens all around her displayed incoming reactions from across the galaxy. Some planets had started to reach out, small species that had once been ignored, now asking to speak with Earth. Her assistant looked surprised. Why are they contacting us? Because they've seen what the Council sees, Elise replied. And they think, maybe we're something different. She paused beside a glowing interface. With a simple touch, she brought up a holographic image of Earth. Blue, bright, still beautiful. We didn't come to challenge, she said softly. We came to be countered. In a peaceful science colony near the edge of Council space, an alien professor gave a public lecture. The topic had changed suddenly from ancient galactic history to the unexpected rise of Earth. He pointed to a screen showing the 3 human ships. These are not warships, he explained. They are symbols. Each ship is positioned at a point where Council power has always been strong. But not once have the humans broken a rule. Not once have they spoken with anger. This is not about power. It is about presence. Students listened closely. For the first time, they were not laughing when Earth was mentioned. Back in the Council hall, a new discussion had started. Should we send a message? And say what? Another replied. We mocked them. Now we fear them. What words fix that? Varkesh, sitting quietly as always, finally raised his voice. We do not fear them. We misunderstood them. There is a difference. He stood, turning to the screen where the HSS Silence still floated like a shadow. Send a message, he said, but not to demand, to ask. The Council staff blinked in surprise. Ask what? Varkesh looked calm. Ask why they waited so long to show us who they truly are. A signal was prepared, short, clear, and respectful. It was sent into space, carried by light and trust. Inside the HSS Silence, a quiet beep echoed on the console. The AI translated the message. Council requests conversation. No rules, no titles, just understanding. Captain Royce listened. Then he spoke softly. Prepare response. Not with answers, with an invitation. Aboard all 3 human ships, the same message was prepared. We are ready to speak, if you are ready to listen. And so, the silence that had once been seen as weakness now became the voice that echoed across the stars. Not through fear, not through power. But through patience. Asterisk, the stars above the Council worlds looked the same as they always had come. Scattered, silent. But on the ground, everything had changed. Across hundreds of systems under Council control, daily life was slower now. Merchants paused during trade deals to glance at news screens. Scientists in tall glass towers ran new simulations. Students in academies whispered about Earth with wide eyes and careful tones. The word human was no longer used as a joke. It had become a question, a mystery, a shift in the air. The 3 human ships had still not moved. HSS Silence, HSS Whisper, and the third, now identified as HSS Pulse, floated in perfect stillness like stars that had chosen to stop shining and simply observe. No one had approached them. No one dared. In the Council's deep archives, a group of knowledge keepers worked day and night, pulling old reports, cross-checking files, rereading every communication Earth had ever sent. What they found surprised them. Messages sent years ago, peaceful, humble, full of learning, had been ignored or set aside. One keeper looked up from his screen and said softly, "They asked to join the galactic community many times." Another nodded, and we said no. Not because they were dangerous, but because they were different. The truth was beginning to settle in. Earth had not grown powerful to impress anyone. It had grown strong in silence because it was left alone. And now, the result of that quiet journey stood in orbit above Council space, watching with steady eyes. At a small diplomatic base on a moon near Council borders, a strange event took place. A tiny alien species, one often ignored by both the Council and traders, sent a message directly to Earth. It was a simple request. "We see you. We are not many, but we would like to know you." The reply from Earth was even simpler. "We see you too." That quiet exchange was shared across hundreds of systems. People began to realize Earth was not choosing sides. It wasn't gathering power for control. It was doing something else. Something older, something wiser. Back on Earth, in a floating command platform high above the ocean, Captain Royce stood beside a clear window. Beneath him, the clouds rolled gently, and the sea shimmered in silver light. He wasn't wearing a formal uniform today, just a plain jacket, a symbol of how Earth viewed itself now. Simple, present, unshaken. His second-in-command entered quietly. "More requests to open private communication, sir. Not from Council leaders, but from smaller systems, peaceful worlds, trade unions, science groups." Royce nodded. "What's their tone?" "Curious, hopeful, respectful." He smiled, then responded with the same. In space, the three ships remained where they were, but something had changed. Their outer panels began to shift, revealing soft blue lights like calm waves across their hulls. The pattern was not random. It pulsed gently, slowly, a signal, not of language, but of presence. On the Council's homeworld, entire buildings turned their lights down to better observe the night sky. People gathered in parks and rooftops, pointing at the strange glowing pattern that moved across the ship's surface. Children asked their parents, "What does it mean?" And some parents, unsure themselves, replied, "Maybe it means they're ready." In the main council hall, a new session was called, not with shouting or fear, but with quiet intent. Varkesh, older now than most around him, stood slowly. His voice was not loud, but every ear turned toward him. "There is no shame in being wrong," he began. "Only in refusing to learn after being shown." He paused, letting the words breathe in the room. "We laughed at Earth. We ignored their hand when it was open. Now they stand not with force but with something we do not fully understand." Someone asked, "Then what do we do?" Varkesh smiled gently. "We listen." And so, the Council prepared their first full message, not from a place of power, but from respect. Back aboard HSS Silence, the AI voice echoed across the bridge. "Message received. Council requests full dialogue. Tone, respectful. Purpose, understanding." Royce stood still for a long moment. Then he gave a soft nod. "Prepare, reply, keep it simple." The message was sent in clear, slow language. "We came not to lead, not to follow, only to stand. And now, we welcome your voice." That night, something remarkable happened. On hundreds of planets, in thousands of quiet homes, beings from all species looked toward the stars. They saw the ships, they remembered the silence, and for the first time in galactic memory, they wondered if strength had never been about size or numbers, but perhaps about how long one can wait without needing to shout. Earth had waited. Now, the galaxy was listening.